This video was brought to you in part by the supporters of the AMTV Patreon. Thank you. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to my Doctor Who book collection, Part 2. If you watched Part 1, you'll know that this was coming. I originally wanted to do this all in one, but I feel I have far too many books to do it all in one long old video. So if you haven't seen Part 1, I highly recommend you check that out first. There'll be a card on screen somewhere, so do check that out if you haven't seen it already. But we are going to continue. We're mainly going to be sticking to this shelf. It's where the bulk of the books are. There's a few more books that you can't see on screen right now that I'll bring up, and now that I'm looking, I mean, we may even go into a Part 3. Not on this shelf, but elsewhere. So let's kick things where we left off with this book right here. This is Doctor Who, The Women Who Lived, which is Amazing Tales for Future Time Lords, written by Crystal D. and Simon Gurria. This is a fab book, just chronological, can't even speak, just detailing some of the key women throughout Doctor Who. Obviously, there's Jodie herself on the cover, you've got Missy and Osgood, River, Idris, the humanoid TARDIS if you like, Donna, Clara, Bill, Yaz, and Amy, which is great. And now, this came out in 2018, and I can't remember if this actually came out before Series 11 started, but nevertheless, I got this recently, and I mean, there's Jo, bless her heart. This is just a great book chronicling many women throughout the Doctor Who universe. So if you want some good written things here and good like bios of characters and stuff like that, you should definitely go and check this book out. There's some great artwork in it as well. Yeah, a lovely hardback too. This one here is quite recent. This is The Daleks, the ultimate collector's edition of the classic 1960s strip. So this is a bookazine that came out this year. I got it for my birthday, actually. And what this is it is basically the entire 1960s Dalek comic strip, all packaged together in this here bookazine. Now, I haven't read the 60s comic strip just yet, like I hadn't read it before. I know a lot of people love it. They say it's like classic Dalek action. I mean, it's in full colour, you get new designs, you get a version of the Emperor Dalek. It looks really, really cool. And suffice to say, I haven't actually trolled through it yet. I will do. I think I'm saving it for like a journey. I enjoy reading comics on a journey, but very excited to get stuck in with this one. Next up, we've got a book from the 1980s. This is Doctor Who, The TARDIS Inside Out, written by John Nathan Turner, who was the producer at the time. You've got the first 6 Doctors on the cover there, which gives you an inkling as to when this came out. The illustrations are by Andrew Skilleter, who did a lot of stuff for the Target novelizations. And this is basically just a guide to the TARDIS, if you like, as it says. Some monsters as well, some great artwork there. Is that John Nathan Turner coming out the TARDIS? Oh, absolutely. You got a Dalek there and K9. Some really lavish artwork for the mid-1980s. It's quite a short book, as you can see. It's very thin. I think I got this as part of a bundle of Who books, but you know, if you like to see what was coming out in the 80s for fans, then it's worth a little look in. Yes, Jamie, this is a big one. This is Doctor Who, The Legend Continues. 5 decades of time travel. Now, this came out in 2005. It's an updated version of a 2003 book called The Legend, which chronicled the first 40 years of Doctor Who, and this one was updated to feature, as you can see there, the 9th Doctor. It's even got the current logo. I got this, I can't remember whether it was Christmas 2005 or just before, but as you can see, it is very well worn. There's creases, there's sellotape everywhere. And I'm going to try and show what this is. This is basically a big encyclopedia of every televised Doctor Who story released up until that point, going backwards there. But of course, right near the end, if I can get it on here, you do also have the 9th Doctor stuff. There's Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. So it's completely updated. It's also got some information on the wilderness years and other little factoids in there as well. But, you know, for 2005, outside of the internet, for me, this was the most comprehensive Doctor Who book there was ever going to be. So I've had this signed by Paul McGann, the lovely 8th Doctor, and I have also had this signed by, where is he? Where is he? There he is, by the 6th Doctor as well. So that's pretty cool. As I said, oh god, this is heavy. It's a very big old book. It's like 500 pages, you know, it's huge, but it is a very special piece of Who memorabilia to me, and despite that it's battered and it's bruised, I'm gonna hold on to it for as long as I can. Here's another big bit of chunk. This is Doctor Who Impossible Worlds, a 50-year treasury of art and design. And that is practically what it says on the tin. I'm gonna try and open it. Ooh, look, a robot spider. This is just a great book about art and design from the show's, well, then 50-year history, coming out around 2013, 2014, I think. You've got a whole host of different art pieces you can look at here. And even at the end, there's an envelope. But what's in the envelope, you say? Okay, this isn't all of them, but you basically get some gorgeous art cards of like art designs. So that's the Zygon Cave from well, it says Invasion of the Zygons, or the Zygon Invasion. So, okay, this came out around 2015. You've got the War Room from Day of the Doctor. That's pretty cool. You've got Arcadia from Day of the Doctor. You have the 11th Doctor's second TARDIS, or I guess that was early design sketches for it. And, you've also got plans for a sonic screwdriver, the 11th Doctor's Sonic. There's more of these in here as well, more than what I'm just showing you. Like, you've got the Gallifreyan War Maps. But if you're a fan of art and design of Doctor Who, this book is an absolute must. Now, this big boy was one of my favourites. This is Doctor Who, The Vault, Treasures from the First 50 years. And, yeah, this was released in 2013. I got my dates right there. Because this was basically sort of like The Legend Continues, but not a comprehensive look at every single story, more like a comprehensive look at every single year up until that point. So I've just opened there onto 1982, taking over the asylum, filled with great loads of pictures, like there's Barusa from the Five Doctors, very great articles in here. Like, you got articles, you've got illustrations, promotional stuff. There's just loads of great content here. Oh, my favourite, the Candyman. And it goes all the way up until 2013. So, yeah, basically a great read. It's something you can find for dirt cheap now. Like, there's loads of these flying about. So if you can find yourself a copy, I'd still definitely... It's worth a read. If you enjoy reading, then I think you'll get a fair bit out of Doctor Who The Vault. And I hope that they do an updated version for the 60th anniversary. Next up, we have Doctor Who, The Secret Lives of Monsters, and I think you can tell when this book came out, but going by the front cover, it says includes exclusive removable artwork. So you've got Cyberman, an Ice Warrior, a Dalek, and a Weeping Angel, with lovely Pete Capaldi on the front. This one I haven't delved into as much, but from the looks of it, it's a lovely hardback book. I guess it's trying to replicate what like the Monsters and Villains series did, but update it somewhat. I mean, it's a lot bigger, there's a lot more pictures, a lot more information. But again, as I say, oh, look, more removable artwork. So it'll be like the Impossible Worlds one, there'll be more different art cards in there. So if art cards are your thing, this is another book you need to pick up. I personally prefer the, I don't want to say simplicity, but it was like more the more simple take of the original like Monsters and Villains book. This one's cool too, definitely more in depth if that's your sort of thing, but I like a bit of simplicity. Do these keep getting bigger, or is it just me? This is Doctor Who, The Illustrated Adventures, a lovely hardback book here, and yeah, pretty much, oh look, City of Death, my favourite story. Sadly, that's a joke. Yeah, this one, I think, just goes through different stories, not all of them, just picks, I think it's 100 of them, and illustrates them with cool new artwork from loads of different artists, which I think is really neat. Going all the way up, what's the most recent one? There's Robot of Sherwood at 89. I'm trying to remember when this came out. Oh, Heaven Sent, the masterpiece, is 90. Hellbent, 97, 98, 99. 100 is Smile. Okay, so I'm going to say this came out around 2017-ish. That'd be pretty good. So I actually quite like the idea of this sort of going through Doctor Who history, illustrating different parts of it. It's really neat. Again, this might not be for you, but I really like this sort of style. Okay, next up we have this, Doctor Who, The Target Book. This is a history of the Doctor Who Target books. I do have a lot of Target books, obviously you haven't seen them yet, that might have to come in a future video. But yes, this is the Target book, as it were. This is like a definitive history of them and what they were, what they meant to the Doctor Who fandom back in the 70s, 80s and 90s. You've got examples of like artwork from the original artist, some Texas artwork, some promo artwork as well. You basically get a great history, and I love the history. And also near the end, there you go, you get a copy of every Doctor Who Target book that they ever put out. It's on this really nice glossy paper. It's a great read as well. I enjoyed ploughing through it over the Christmas period. It's somewhat difficult to find, I think, in hardback these days. I think you can get a paperback because it did come out, I want to say like 2007, so quite some time ago, but it's by the guys at Telos Publishing who've done some other books you've seen, and it is just phenomenal. I'm sure fans of a certain age will recognise this. This is Doctor Who, a celebration, 2 decades through time and space. You know, we've seen 40th anniversary books, 50th anniversary books, not 20th. So this came out in 1983 by Peter Haining. This is the hardback version. I can't remember if that was the original or the paperback was first. You got this lovely artwork of balloons coming out of the TARDIS, which has sort of become quite iconic in the space. I've seen it used for a lot of things outside of this. Very texty, very texty. There are pictures. I think they're all in black and white. Remember, colour printing was still expensive back then. But I guess, you know, for a Doctor Who fan in 1983, this was a great summation of where the programme had come up until this point. Does it hold much use now? Probably. I mean, you know, you could argue all these books don't hold as much use now that the internet's about. But from a literary standpoint and a historical standpoint, I think this one's really cool to have around. If I ever wanted to sort of get a 1983 perspective on where the show was, then I'd turn to this. And following on from 20 years, we've got Doctor Who 25 Glorious Years, also by Peter Haining. So this would have come out in 1988 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the show, and I'm trying to remember if this was more along the lines of a similar thing. I mean, printing. Oh, we do have some colour of some companions there. Seems to be a mix. What does that say? Who are these doctors? But I think along the lines, it's very similar to the Celebration one. It's written by the same author. I'd like to think the text elements are different. It'd be a little lazy if they just, you know, copied the same text, but somehow I don't think they did that. So, again, if you want a perspective from 1988, a time when the TV show wasn't doing the best, it'd be interesting to see what you make of this. Here's a tall one, but a thin one. This is Doctor Who Time Frame, the illustrated history, and it pretty much gives you what it says on the tin. This is illustrations throughout Doctor Who history. It reminds me of The Vault, you know, similar Target covers, promotional listings, Radio Times covers. This came out in the 1990s. I can't remember when. I think it was like 93, 94. So again, these days it's more of a perspective thing. You know, I think a lot of books have come out that have done this, obviously to a more comprehensive and more in-depth level. But for a 90s book, it's pretty good. And the last book on this list, by virtue of it being the tallest, is Doctor Who Cybermen, which is written actually by David Banks, who plays the cyber leader you can see on the front cover in the 80s. Now, I got my copy from the Doctor Who exhibition in Blackpool all the way back in 2006 when that was still open, and this book was the coolest, man. It originally came out in 1988, but it gives you a very in-depth comprehensive history of the Cybermen, their TV adventures, like a timeline of their Cybermen's evolution. There's some gorgeous colour artwork in here, like demonstrating their adventures and their rise, their experiences with the Doctor. It's just, I mean, look at that from Tomb of the Cybermen. Look at that. It's just a really cool, really in-depth book. Obviously, some of this has been contradicted now. I believe some of this offers an offering of how the Cybermen got their genesis. I know this has been obviously attempted in Big Finish and in the TV show itself. But again, think back to 1988, or like me when I was a 10-year-old reading this. This was a pretty magical book. So I would actually highly recommend you get a copy of Cybermen if you're interested. So those are all the books you can see on the shelf, but there are a couple of books that were actually too tall for the shelf that you couldn't see, so I'm going to show them here for you now. The first one, oh god, is this Doctor Who The Whoniverse, a very heavy book, The Untold History of Space and Time. This one's quite weird. It's got the confession dial on the front, and you got some lovely artwork, Scaroff's ship. I think this tells it from a more, like, story-based. I don't think it's as factual. I think it's more of a story perspective. I'm yet to plough through this book. There's some gorgeous artwork for you. And I will one day. Oh, God. I'm saying it is really heavy as well to hold with one hand, just FYI. But yeah, if you like sort of the history of Doctor Who told to you from, like, a storytelling perspective rather than a factual perspective, then this one's a good one for you. Retreating to the 90s, we have Doctor Who Companions, and again, is this colour photos or is it okay? A lot of black and white. It's all, oh no, some colour, mix of black and white and colour. All the companions up to that point, and this was in like a series of books. You can see there they also did books on the 60s, the 70s, and soon to be the 80s as well. There was lots of different Doctor Who related media coming out in the 90s despite the TV show being dead, which is honestly quite incredible when you think about it. So again, yeah, there's probably been more comprehensive books these days, but if you want the OG, here's the one for you. And last but not least, what you couldn't see out of shot was this, the Doctor Who Annual 2006. Now, I have a funny history with the annuals. This was the first one I got for, you know, like Christmas 2005. I got every annual up until, I want to say, 2013. and then I stopped. And I don't have all those other annuals anymore. I had to get rid of them, save space and stuff. And I don't have any classic annuals either. But this one I kept around because I think this is a very important book, especially for me. I mean, in the beginning, it's not very big, but in the beginning, you actually get a little detailed semi-history of the Doctors. And bear in mind, this is just after Eccleston left, and they weren't really pushing the classic series that much. So this was such an invaluable guide to me. You have some annual features as well. You've got like a word search, and there's comics in there. But this book is also noted, Meet the Doctor, for having the first appearance of Sally Sparrow from Blink. And I'm trying to find her little story. There you go. What I Did on My Christmas Holidays by Sally Sparrow. Written by Stephen Moffat, and obviously that's a very different looking Sally Sparrow to the one we got. But yeah, I remember reading this a lot, and then when Blink happened, I was like, whoa, mind blown. Then you've got a good image of them there, an advert for DWM and the puzzle solution. So, and I always love this image of the TARDIS. I don't know what it is. It's so good. So yeah, even though it's a bit battered and, all the other annuals came out after it, I do love this one because, again, it pushed for introducing people to the classic series of the show. It gave us great little short stories, including the Sally Sparrow one I mentioned. So it holds a very special place, and I think, I hope not to get rid of it. So that is all the books on this side of the shelf. If you were here for part 1, you would have seen the smaller books on here. Again, if you haven't, go and check that out. But that is all the main Doctor Who books I have. Now, I do have Target books. I do have the Complete History series of books. But I think we'll get into those for part 3 because this video is already going on long enough. So, if you enjoyed part 2, please leave a like on this video. It really helps out. Also, let me know in the comments. Do you own any of these books, or did you own them? Or, have you gotten rid of them? Have you held on to them? Let me know in those comments. Also, do subscribe to the channel. We're trying to race to 15k before the end of the year. I really think we can do it, and your guys' help would be very much appreciated. And until the next one, folks, I shall see you next time.